We're in our zucchini patch. We got some chopping and dropping to do, but just because stuff is growing up around it doesn't mean we're not getting the abundance of zucchinis. So here's, we've harvested some already, and notice how the flower has come off. That means that it's time to get it. This plant will still give us a lot of zucchinis because we can still see all the flowers. That means more zucchinis are coming behind it. But we got one, you can fry it, turn it into bread. Zucchini, it's a great plant. If you don't have it in your garden, it's definitely one to know and an essential for us. Zucchini, it's a squash. These peppers are pepperin'. This one's not quite ready. They got a little bit more size to them. But these are Serrano peppers. We've got hot peppers in here. But over here, we've got some California Wonder bell peppers. Let me show you those because that looks a little bit more like those red and green peppers that most people are used to. So here's those California Wonder peppers that I was talking about. It's still a little bit small and it's still got some more time to go, but that looks very similar to the red or green peppers that you get in the store. Did you know that red and green peppers and even the colored peppers are all the same species? It's just how long do you leave them on the vine? They go to green, go to red, and then the different colors that way. So California Wonder peppers, they're a great pepper to plant in your garden. So last time I saw you, these flower hedgerows were pretty much bare. We hadn't hit the time that they'd gone to flower yet. The stalks had come up, but these are bulbs, so they come back every year and really pretty. But last time we were here, we had a lot of poppies, orange flowers on the berm behind you. The bulbs have come back up, but notice how the flowers are changing. So we have this Virginia wildflower mix that we plant on everything, but just because it's the same wildflower mix doesn't mean that all the flowers mature at the same time. So that gives us dynamic, beautiful appearance that the bees like, the people like. So it's important to have a good mix of flowers. Don't just be like monocropping flowers, just like we talk about companion planting different plants in the garden. It's the same with flowers. And it gives you a beautiful bouquet all throughout the times of the year. And truthfully, we make more money on the flowers than we do on the plants. Look at how much these strawberries have changed. Last time I saw you, they were just little plants that we planted as bare roots into the ground. Now they've grown into these big bushy plants, and they've sent out these runners, and they're starting to multiply for next year. So we have our asparagus in there. Of course, there's a little bit of weeds coming up that we have to chop and drop, as always. But the abundance of this ground cover of strawberries has really taken shape. And you can see what we're trying to do is we have this ground cover of strawberries that keeps the weeds down and provides us food. The squirrels have eaten these up this year. And then we also have the asparagus that, as it grows and matures over time and establishes that root ball that's super healthy, we can harvest that. Asparagus is one of the first things to come up in the spring, so it's a great combination to have with strawberries right here. Look how much this has grown. These are very immature bushes, but the blueberries are even still starting to come here. They started off as green. Look at that dark blueberry right there. These purple in the middle will be ready to go for the next couple days, but we got to beat the birds to them because everything loves blueberries. Oh, did I just drop it? How sad is that? Whatever, that'll be a blueberry bush next year. Let me find something I can eat. There's one. Not quite ready, but it's getting there. I often get this question, is this poison ivy? No! 1, it's not a vine. 2, it has thorns on it. And 3, it has berries, which I guess, but whatever. This is not poison ivy. But it does speak to how we can have intentional plantings with volunteer berry patches and work with nature and abundance and the design. We didn't have these here when we planted it. It was just grass, but they've come and taken over, and that gives us a great abundance of blackberries. So sometimes intentional comes from unintentional. This is not poison ivy, however. So remember years ago we did that rope making video about dogbane? We've got some more dogbane in the garden. Volunteers, just because it's not something that we want to grow doesn't mean it doesn't have a use. Great cordage plant, and it's growing right here next to our blackberries. That's all I have to say about that. Dogbane. So composting for chickens is really important because particularly if you have a stationary coop, they're gonna pee, they're gonna poop. You have to be absorbing that because otherwise it just builds up in the chicken coop. So you have to get that out of there to continue to have a healthy environment for your chickens. But what do we do with it after that? Here, we put it into a big pile and just let it sit well away. And then the composting takes place. Now, anything rots, but you can get it to rot faster by turning it and keeping your greens and browns ratio correct. That's something that is outside of the scope of this course, but the basics is pile all your wood chips up, and your soiled wood chips, pile all those up, and ultimately they will rot. If you want to turn them either by hand with a pitchfork or a digging fork or with a tractor bucket, you can do that to speed up the process, but given enough time, you'll get rich compost that can then go into your garden. A lot of people, when they eat stuff in their house, they take the scraps and they compost those. We feed those to our chickens because, not so much for our application, but for other applications. Like some people will say, oh, wouldn't it be a great business idea to go around collecting chicken scrap, or collecting table scraps from people to have a large-scale composting? No, because there's bacteria and viruses that just doesn't cook out with the temperature of compost. This is get to 147 degrees plus, and hepatitis C will still remain in that mix. So we take our scraps, feed them to the chickens, and that adds an intermediate layer of stacking functions before it goes to the compost pit. So we're using those scraps, and that's how we stack functions. So the scraps come from the table and the cooking, we feed those to the chickens, and I think that's the purpose of chickens in the system, is to act as kind of a catch-all dispose-all, where they can take the meat, the vegetables, whatever you have, they'll take that, where if you were to compost meat, it just becomes like a nasty thing. And then you have rodents come to look for it and dig in your pile, and it just becomes really nasty really quickly. So all of the table scraps go to the chickens poop and soil their litter, and then we scoop all that up and throw it into a big pile. Now we don't throw it onto the garden because the wood chips are still wood chips, and if we put them directly into the garden, chances are they're gonna suck up nitrogen and the ingredients that the plants will use to grow rich and healthy, right? So the more abundant plant, it wants to have nitrogen accessible to it. So if we're throwing the wood chips directly onto the pasture, that's not what we want to do. Now the chicken poop in the right levels can definitely help in the garden or on broad scale growing of crops, but in this application, we don't want to be throwing the wood chips for the reasons that I just mentioned. So we take those soil wood chips, put them into the pile, over time they rot, and then eventually those can go either into the compost tea or go in at the end of the year. Fall time, we can prepare our beds with the compost that we've made, and that way next year's planting, we're setting that up for success.
What is compost tea?
Compost tea is where we take a mixture of really rich compost, put it into a pantyhose, and then dunk it into a bucket of water. Now we have to have some aeration in there, so we put an aerating pump that pumps air into the water and circulates stuff around and keeps it from getting just stinky and nasty. But we use that as a liquid fertilizer on our plants, and it's a great way to have natural, really healthy fertilizer to put on your plants. Did you know organic producers can still use, I think it's like 12 fertilizers, and there's no test for fertilizer. So a lot of the producers that you're buying from commercially just use fertilizer, and there's no way to tell. But compost tea is a really healthy fertilizer that it's really difficult to burn up your plants. You just pour it onto the ground or use a pump spray bottle and apply it, or even in your drip irrigation system. But compost tea is a way to use your compost to make a liquid fertilizer to then enrich the health and the vitality of your plants in the garden.
How long would you leave this out here before you're ready to use it?
Compost? Leaving compost out in the field and trying to determine how long before you put it on the plants, that's up to, there's so much. Any question that you ask me, the answer is it depends. And it depends on what you're putting into the compost. But really what you want to see is that there's no wood chips. The wood chips have gone from this like bright pine color to dark, more mulchy color. Then there's less worry that way. But on other applications, say, so human manure is a thing. There's lots of people that are using human manure, composting that, and using that in the garden. I think the California code is 3 years. So it really depends. It depends on what the conditions are of the wood chips that you use for your bedding, or the pine straw, or the wheat straw. But what we do is let our compost sit to the fall, and then we apply it on our beds, and that way we have 3 months of downtime that even if things didn't go exactly correctly, we have a little bit of span so that things can rot down into the soil. That makes for a healthy system for us. So when the bedding comes out of the chicken, particularly the brooding house or the chicken coop, there's some sort of bed that has to absorb urine and poop. It gets piled up into a pile. There's many ways that people talk about adding air to your compost mixture to get it to go quicker. We just pile it up, and ultimately over time, we'll rotate it a little bit, but ultimately over time, after years and years, you have this like rich black soil conditioner. If you cover it with a tarp, you'll keep some of those nutrients in, but ultimately the process for any time you have organic matter is pile it up, add oxygen to it, and the bacteria will do what it has to turn it into a rich fertilizer mixture. You can see over there we've got some hay and brush and stuff piled up, and then this is further along in the process. This has been here for a while. But all of this we're going to use in our garden when we're making some new terraces to condition the soil, particularly the hard Virginia clay soil. We could do stuff like daikon radishes and cover crop with winter wheat and peas, but it really is a great supercharge to have rotting material that you can throw on that, and it just kickstarts the process. But compost, it's an essential part of sustainable farming.